Well, hello everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're well in the middle of the week. We're spilling some tea. So I hope you all got your tea because we're going to be talking about some very interesting stuff um, with regard to the Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Frankie case, that's for sure. I don't know if you guys have been following that story at all, but we have been certainly diving deep into what's happening there. But before we do that, I want to give a very big shout out to my very cool channel sponsor, Spooky 2, the creators of Home Rife machines. And as you all know, I'm a great fan of the Spooky 2 products. I have a little Hiwi machine myself, which is about this size. And you wear it, and it's a rife machine. It clears your blood. It takes away the bacteria, the viruses, everything. It is absolutely an amazing little thing. So I'm very happy to be for them to be a sponsor to this channel as well. And if you guys are interested in checking out their products, the link is in the description below. And if you want to purchase any of their products, you may use my name, Chantel, as your coupon code, and you will get a 5% discount on your purchases. So drop my name. But before any further, I'm just going to play the little promo ad.
Hi all, this is my dog Cleo. She's 15 years old and she's a min pin. 2 years ago, she broke her molar on an antler, and we had to get her dental surgery, and we had to put her under. Everything went well in her surgery, but unfortunately afterwards, the worst happened, and she had a really negative effect from the anesthesia, really bad. She couldn't digest anything. She started to become allergic to everything. She was gulping, reverse sneezing, basically throughout the entire day. We weren't sleeping. It was just this terrible nightmare. So I've known about Spooky for quite some time. In its earlier days, I was looking into Rife technology for my own benefit because I had a long history of autoimmune disorder, and I researched what was really helping people, and especially learning about energetic medicine. I decided to get a Rife machine, and Spooky popped up in my search just as the most affordable Rife machine. So this is the setup right here. We started her in June, and it is now November. So that's how long it took. I also have her on immune system balance and healing and regeneration. Plus now, we didn't take her to the vet to get more x-rays, but she's not making those hard gulps anymore. This is a miracle, because it was every day since that surgery, and it helped. And it's a miracle. It is nothing short of a miracle. She's doing amazing. She's 15 and she is beautiful and vibrant again. And we can play rough, we can run, and she doesn't stop anymore in pain or sneezing and gulping. So obviously we recommend Spooky to anybody, to human and to animal. It really was the missing link in our regime, right? Good health to all.
Well, as you can see, not just humans, but animals too. And that's what I love about this product. So, as I said before, you're welcome to just check in the description area for their link and use my name, Chantel, to get your 5% discount. Cool. Well, without any further ado, let me bring the lovely Brice onto the channel. Hello, Brice.
I was getting a little emotional watching that Spooky 2 commercial. I've already told my dog he can't go anywhere. He's going to have to live out his days with me. I'm going to have to keep him alive forever. So I was like, I'm going to plug him up to that machine.
It's amazing. I have to say, I can't rave enough about these machines. And, I don't know, those of you who watch Caleb shows, and I know it looks like all three of you have commented there. I mean, Spooky 2, he's on one of the Spooky 2 machines. And I mean, but these guys have had so much stuff go into their bodies over the years, and especially someone like Caleb. And I mean, he went through hell detoxing. And, but I want to tell you, it has been, I say, a lifesaver for him. And he still, when he takes it, he'll still get his nausea and stuff like that. But I mean, he's got all sorts of stuff coming out of his skin, out of his face, all sorts of, it's amazing how when your frequencies start actually balancing themselves, how this machine actually works. And as you know, I've got the little one, the little Hiwi. It's the size of a computer mouse. And you plug your things in and you put the tense pads on. The bigger ones you don't put anything on because you just put them in the room and they just do their thing. But it's mobile. I walk around with it. I program what I need to. My best is like just the blood purifier. So when you put the blood purifier on for 2 hours, you just walk around like you walk with the thing. You just put it around your neck. Put the little tense pads on before you know it. There it goes. And as we know, when your blood is pure, everything is fine.
That's your sacred thing. It's, a little nausea. I was actually saying this morning in my class. Sometimes a little nausea isn't a bad thing. It means you've hit something. Something is moving,
Exactly.
and that's not. It's
you're releasing.
Being nauseating totally sucks, but at least you're moving. Your body is in fevers aren't necessarily bad things as well, because fever is burning karma. It's burning up old stuff. So that's awesome. So yeah, and Lisa, I just, for your dog, let us know, because that sucks. Listen, the child abuse, which we're going to talk about today, and animals are like, that is just, those are the two subjects that are so hard. So Lisa D, keep us posted with
I'd love to know, Lisa. Absolutely. I'd love to know how that goes with your little doggy.
You know what I learned about dogs? Before we get into the subject, this might be interesting. In the early 20th century, so early 1900s, a Labrador would live. The average lifespan for a Labrador, just a basic Labrador, was 20 to 25 years.
Wow.
Now it's like 10 to 14. What changed?
Absolutely, as well as, and I think the definitely the foods as well.
Yeah, they didn't have kibbles. They ate normal food. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So exactly. And that's street dogs. My dog, if they're not hit by a car or they don't get an infection from fleas or ticks, like heartworm, they will live to 20 to 25 years.
Yeah.
And they're not touched. So they're not dogs that aren't touched by man. So I think anything that's going to bring a dog back to its natural state of being, it's cleaning its blood, purifying it, it's going to obviously work wonders, just as it does for humans too. So
right.
We should. I wish there was a way we could send some spooky machines to the says it's 8 years and yep, Lisa D, yep, it's I wish we could send these spooky machines to the Frankie kids. Because boy, are they going to need some. The physical wounds are going to heal, but those mental scars are 8 years average. Lisa, wow. Gosh. Geez.
That's crazy.
No way. I listen, I'll take a bullet for my dog. So I give my dog a kidney if I could. So
I feel the same about my cats. I do.
Yeah,
so cute.
They're your family. Actually, I think it was California that just made it where your animals are legally a part of your family. So you can't surrender. You can't, if you get divorced, you have to settle custody. So I will say, usually California is not that great in my mind, but that I think they've taken animal ownership. They're legally now your family members in California. I think
that's amazing. I had no idea that was actually on.
Yeah.
Good morning, Ulysses.
Yeah.
Young ladies, I love that. Young ladies.
It's the spooky machines, though.
So must be my spooky machine.
Spooky machine. Spooky machine. On my channel, it's the filters. I told you guys that I spilled the beans on Friday. I filter the crap out of. If I'm looking tired or rough, I'm gonna filter the crap out of that video.
Well, I'm telling you that Brice taught me on Friday how to actually edit my videos and stuff. And I have practiced a little bit. I've forgotten how to do a lot of the stuff, but
I'll show you.
But I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be filtering things.
Yeah, it's the ASEA too. But no, listen, there are days when I get on camera and there are just, listen, before I was ever filming, I would know that there were days I felt tired. But when you look at yourself on camera and you're tired and you can see you look tired,
it's horrendous.
No hiding that.
I look at myself, I look at it and I go, oh my God. Yeah, I know there are definitely days, that I look like, oh no.
Now you can tell when you've had a long morning and you're like, you know what? Thank you, Filmora editing software. You provide these awesome filters.
Well, you see, Filmora works. Filmora will absolutely work, right? When you are absolutely editing your videos, right? But not when you're going live. Then you must just hope they've got some good touch-ups.
I will say
and StreamYard doesn't have them, so that's a bit of a crap one.
Here's the thing for all of our audience watching right now. I think this is kind of a known thing in the YouTube world. StreamYard has the better functions for the technical side.
Not the good filters.
No, Zoom is so much better. Zoom makes you look. That is why. Can I tell you guys a little bit of a secret? I probably should get StreamYard for the technical purposes, but I am way too vain. I'm like way too vain when I actually use Zoom because I am way too vain. I'm like,
well, you're on StreamYard now. You look gorgeous. I don't know what your problem is.
I'm like, whoa. And Zoom just makes you look a lot better. I will say
you're right. Zoom does. Zoom, you can even put lipstick on with Zoom. It even has things that you can put lipstick on.
Yes, yeah. Well, and I will say, you guys, here's a funny story. So my boyfriend has done meetings on both Zoom and StreamYard, and he did a meeting once on StreamYard, and I didn't warn him. I didn't warn him about StreamYard because I didn't think he'd notice. He got off the meeting and he looked real depressed, and he came to me. He was like, "Have I all of a sudden just gotten old?" And I started laughing. I was like, "Oh no, that's just StreamYard." I was like,
StreamYard, don't worry.
I probably should have warned you about that. I was like, "That's just StreamYard. StreamYard makes everyone look old." It makes everyone look old.
But at least with StreamYard, we can see the comments. On Zoom, we can't see the comments. So that's why I use StreamYard. So I'll just sit far away from the camera.
StreamYard is it's so much better for the technical, than Zoom. But Zoom just makes you look better. So that's why I don't do as many lives, you guys.
Zoom, you can touch yourself up so much better with Zoom.
I do so many just pre-recorded videos, so I can just edit the crap out of it, and I'll admit it, I'm vain. So anyway.
Well, talking about looking like crap, I'm just glad I'm not Ruby Frankie or Jodi Hildebrandt right now, because man, I don't know if you all have been following what's been going, and especially since the weekend. On the weekend, the authorities dropped a whole lot of the telephone calls that they were having. Kevin Franke was interviewed, I think, twice by the police, or that's what they've allowed us to see or hear so far. Wow. What a mind opener. And of course, we're just hearing more and more stuff and just getting to realize more and more just how not innocent young Ruby Frankie was. I mean, really, this is it's actually quite shocking, and I'm really happy that we've been actually covering this story, because it's quite a mind fuck. It's a mind fuck, I tell you, it's a mind fuck.
Yes. Well, the funny thing is too, I've been like this. I actually yesterday was able to take a couple of hours to prepare for another story I'm working on. But before, I told you guys Monday, I have been so inundated. So basically, just to recap, so you guys understand what happened, especially if you're not in the United States. So every state in the Union, in the United States, acts kind of like its own country in the sense that it has its own constitution. So the way that like child abuse is handled in Utah is not going to be the same as like Georgia. They're both felonies, but we've learned a lot about the criminal system in Utah. And basically they pled guilty. So the deal, the plea for so they don't have to go to trial, which is really, although trial would have been very fascinating because it's all public, we would be able to get the transcripts because it's all public. It would be very fascinating to really hear the test. I think we're getting a lot of that with this body cam footage anyway, but I understand why they took the plea, because this means the children don't have to testify, and that would have been horrific for that 10 and 12-year-old to have to go testify. I don't think that the prosecutor or the defense attorneys wanted that or the judge wanted that for these children. But if they had pled not guilty and it went to trial, the children would have been forced to testify. So thank you, God, that they did take a plea. That's like the least selfish thing that Ruby Frankie has done. This whole situation is decided not to plead guilty so her kids don't go to trial. Well, to offer a plea deal, you have to give them an incentive, right? To plead guilty. So they knocked from 6 counts, they knocked it down to 4 for each of them. Now in Utah, in most states, when you are either found guilty or you plead guilty, the judge or the jury will come up with your sentence pretty quickly. Like the judge usually does it. But in Utah, it's very strange because it goes to like a parole board. So the judge does not sentence these criminals. And I'm sure if we have any attorneys in the chat, or if you could probably say it better than me. So basically what I learned is that because they pled guilty and they have to serve, so it's 1 to 15 years for each count, and they have to serve them consecutively. So they have to serve, so they can get minimum 4 to 30 years. It can't be 60 years because Utah also has a limitation on prison terms, so you can't go over 30. So it's 4 to 30 years is what they can get. Now, the parole board is going to figure this out, but all of this footage that was dropped, I guess the DA had, and the parole board got to see in order to figure out the sentences, and that's why the public didn't get it. This is my understanding, because they don't want the parole board to be influenced by the opinions of the public, which, I'm sorry, but after they dropped all this information, how can you not have a certain opinion? And we'll talk about that. So the fact, it's been 30 days since they pled. So the 30-day mark is when they get to release everything. So that tells me too that the parole board has the sentences. They haven't released it yet. And all I can say is, holy shit, you guys. I brought this case to Shanti for the main reason is I really wanted to look at, we're in this situation in our world today, especially in the disclosure world, where we're starting to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're painting everything black. Everything the cabal has touched is now bad. We have to throw it away. But we know that the darkness can't create anything. So I thought we could look at like Jodi's counseling and talk about where she had inverted her teachings. That was my intention of bringing this case forward. But then the body cam footage dropped. Then the Kevin Franke interviews dropped, and y'all, I swear to God, I did not have paranormal phenomenon on my bingo card for this case. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Y'all.
No, it's crazy. And especially this weekend, before that, I mean, we've been hearing about these 2 women, and, it sounds very much like Jodi kind of manipulated Ruby Frankie, and, that she kind of got sucked in and, to do all of this thing with the kids and what have you. But wow, and I think the main thing that for me was a big eye opener was listening to her husband's interviews with the police, because he walked us through basically the whole situation, and especially
that was not his intention, was it? There was a forensic psychologist that was like, he literally laid it out. He did not mean to, but Kevin Franke laid it out for us. Everything.
Bit by bit. And he was speaking, for example, I mean, and this interview started when, as he sat down with the cops, the first thing he says, "Did you get the pen papers?" And they're going, "What are the pen papers?" And everyone initially thought it might have been the journals or something.
Which they did release the journals.
Yeah, yes. The pen papers was literally stuff that Ruby was writing on. She was writing down stuff, visions and things that Jodi was having. So I think Jodi was always in charge, but Ruby was definitely under a lot of lots of her influence, because when we're also going back, Jodi, she literally gave Jodi the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. And when the YouTube manager said, "Hey, you're being scammed here," he was fired, right?
Yes.
So can
we pause on that for a second? Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know that a lot of our friends, and Mickey King, you said that forensic psychologist, he was good. I've watched that like twice now to like really hear what he had to say about this, because he's really good. I like that channel, True Hidden Crime. I watch them a lot because they're very pragmatic in the way that they look at these cases. And they do, I will say, I think his wife, the woman who does the channel with him, I think she's an ex-Mormon, I think. So she has, I think, don't quote me on that. So she has a lot of inside information into the Mormon church. Now, the 8 Passengers. So for our friends who don't do YouTube, that might have, like, I picked up on that, because when you run a YouTube channel, it is a lot of work to run a YouTube channel. I'm not trying to blow smoke up our asses or anything, but from a perspective as a YouTuber myself, Shanti's a YouTuber, I think sometimes when you watch YouTubes, you don't understand like how much energy is actually going into a channel. Especially these family vloggers, they edit a lot, they've added music, they do sound effects, so she had amassed a brand. Okay, so my brand is Esoteric Atlanta. Shanti's brand is Aquarius, right? That's your brand, right? So that's what you've created. She created this brand of 8 Passengers. It had like 2.8 million. I have 50,000 subscribers, and I feel like I have a big channel. 2.8 million? Could y'all?
That's a lot of people you're reaching. Yeah.
It was one of the bigger channels on YouTube. So when you reach 100,000 subscribers, I think it's 100,000, YouTube assigns you what they call a YouTube manager. All right. Now, what this means, and God, that's the one reason why I want to get to 100,000 subscribers, because then you actually have a human being at YouTube you can talk to. So you're not under as much scrutiny. You can say, hey, like we get bopped a lot. So you have this manager that helps you with your brand. Like it becomes your business. Your channel becomes your business. They were bringing in millions, weren't they, Shanti? Like millions.
Yeah.
With the AdSense, but I know now family channels are not monetized, but for a long time they were monetized. So just the AdSense alone from the commercials, and then plus the sponsorship deals. I mean, they were bringing in, it was a multi-million-dollar business. And you know what? With all opinions aside, anybody that can do that can create that, good for them. Like that's a lot of hard work. So I don't fault them that. But then Jodi basically, and the forensic psychologist said she tagged Ruby as her mark because she wanted what? World domination. Ruby wanted an in with a big person to get her claws into more people. And so
Jodi, you mean? Jodi wanted. Yeah.
So she, and now how did Ruby and Jodi meet? Well, Ruby has an older son who's now a legal adult. His name is Chad. Now we've talked a little bit about Chad and his experience with the Anasazi Wilderness Camp. in my opinion, and this is just, I was not a viewer of 8 Passengers. I only know more about it since this case, but all the clips I've seen, that the channel no longer exists, it's been pulled down. All of her children, in my opinion, and Shanti, you might be able to answer better this, or our friends in the chat who have kids, her 6 kids to me seem like normal, good kids. Any trouble they got into was just regular mischief that kids just get into. They all seem like really, really good kids. But Ruby already had the propensity to be, in my opinion, to be a sadist. She gets pleasure out of pain. And so we already know before this happened that there was, before she even met Jodi, that there was a lot of scrutiny on the way she was parenting. Well, Chad, they thought Chad had these behavioral problems, and Ruby made no secret about her religion, that she was a Mormon. Who is one of the top therapists recommended by the Mormon Church? Jodi Hildebrandt. So that's how she met Jodi. So this was serendipitous. The stars aligned for Jodi Hildebrandt because she was looking for a mark, for somebody to help spread her message. Here comes this woman who's desperately, wanting to find a spiritual path, who's desperately trying to fix her son, which her son didn't need to be fixed, in my opinion. She has the same propensities as Jodi does towards abuse. So it was like a match made in heaven or a match made in hell, whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of how they met. And then Jodi talked her into signing over, y'all. I mean, I swear to God.
Even signing over, it was giving. It was giving her. But I think this is also where the whole cult mentality comes in. Because of Jodi's ability to, she has that magnetic way about her. She's a leader. And no doubt she's a narcissist. She knows she's super intelligent. So she has, and we're going to talk a little bit about, obviously, lots of paranormal type stuff that was happening as well. So no doubt that played a role in this as well. And when we're looking at some of the stuff we've discovered about her, it makes a lot of sense to me that she herself was abused as a child.
Yeah.
That in fact, that is, apparently in her autobiography, that is, or part thereof, that is what she maintains as well. So we're going to look at that as well a little bit later. But so she obviously would have had that magnetic way about her that she was drawing this in, and she literally wanted to rule the world. She wanted this, her way of teaching and her connection classroom to be throughout the world and have everyone doing this. So she already, exactly, she already had all of this stuff going on. And then she somehow managed to get Ruby to give her connection, 8 passengers. And that's what I was saying. So she then said she wanted to give it to her. Her YouTube Ruby's YouTube manager said, "You've got to be kidding. She's scamming you." And then the next thing, he gets fired, or she gets fired.
Well, the funny thing is, too, is I think when that happened, Shanti, I think that was one of the cracks in Kevin's perspective. I think because Kevin was like, because Kevin was kind of used as like the triangulation, and the forensic psychologist, he talked about how Jodi pushed her way into the marriage and pushed Kevin out. She kind of took Kevin's place.
Totally.
And so Kevin was under her kind of spell as well, constantly trying to like meet her approval to get his family back. But this was like this handing over of 8 passengers. This is he was like, absolutely not. I would think if you have 6 children too, if I had children, I would want to make sure that I left them something. This was their legacy as well.
Especially if they helped earn the fortune. But then, as well, I mean, with that, she was then, Ruby was then going to become an employee of Jodi. It wasn't even like she was getting a partnership or an equal partnership or a 10% partnership or whatever. There was she was then becoming an employee of Jodi Hildebrandt, which was absolutely fascinating to begin with. And then, the whole thing was the manipulation. And of course, talking about, oh, well, we're doing God's work.
Yes.
And we're all involved.
How
and you're involved, Kevin, and the bishop's involved. And all of us are involved in doing God's work.
And it was almost like, how dare you be so superficial as to worry about money when we're doing God's work? And this is a really good example, you guys. We talk a lot about the law of one, or I talk a lot about the law of one, with service to self, service to others, the dark polarity versus the light polarity. This is a prime example, a huge example of service to self, right?
Yeah.
So Jodi is the holder of truth. Jodi is the proprietor of righteousness. Jodi is the one that has the connection to God. We're all just minions. We have to submit our hard work to Jodi. That's service to self. That's not what a person of the light does. If Jodi was of the light, she would never ever even consider taking 8 passengers from Ruby. She wouldn't be in the situation she's in now. Like, this is just such a good example. And I agree, Charmaine. That's no excuse. Just because you have been abused doesn't mean that you will. But what I think we're looking at with Jodi is I don't think Jodi. We were kind of talking about this offline. I don't think Jodi is just your run of the mill abused kid. I think she was groomed. This is just my opinion, by the Illuminati in the Mormon Church.
Well, that's exactly it. And Brice, that's what we were speaking about as well, Orphe. That's what I was saying. Out of all the podcasts I've listened to with this, and you mentioned one that maybe does call them out a bit, but not one mentions that we know the Mormon Church forms the 5th pillar or one of the 5 pillars of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
If you've listened, and guys, I'm going to say to you again, go and listen to my interviews with Asia Rain. That I did maybe a year ago now. She was groomed by and trafficked through the Mormon Church.
Yep.
And horrific. 10 out of the 12 top guys she was abused by. So we have no doubt that she was abused, or a product, if you will, of the Mormon Church. A part of what they speak about in here as well is the fact that she was abused.
Yeah.
She apparently, Kevin Franke says she smelled really bad. She hated bathing or showering. Now that, I've worked with abused people for a long time over the years. And I'll tell you, I'd say probably at least 80% of people who've been severely and especially sexually abused, right? And we're talking that type of abuse. Will go through stages and maybe for a long time not shower or bath as well, because they just don't want anyone near them. It's their way of repelling people. Okay. She
was aggressive towards men. She pushed men away. She destroyed
absolutely. And I was about to say that you just see how every man is a sex addict. Every man has got addictive issues to sex or pornography or something. This unfortunately, is no doubt I have in my mind that this was her projection. That she was projecting onto others. But when you look, she was severely cut. She'd been cutting herself. She apparently always wore long sleeve shirts with hoodies and stuff as well. So she didn't want to be seen. She kept herself sort of closed. She wasn't bathing or showering. She hated men. That was obvious.
Isn't it interesting, Shanti, how she always diagnosed the men with sex addiction. She never diagnosed the women with it.
Exactly. I was going to say that, I mean, a 3-year-old boy was diagnosed as being addicted to porn, right? Or something like that. One of Ruby's kids that she was saying. I mean, just this whole thing. So we have to look, for me as a healer, I look at stuff like that. I'm always looking for reasons. And you're right, Charmaine, what you were saying early on, there is no excuse, I say we are not responsible for the abuse that was instilled upon us. That is not our fault. So we cannot blame ourselves for something that someone did to us or forced us to do. But what we can do is take a responsibility.
Yeah.
And when we take responsibility, it means we then decide to change things. So then we decide to change the way that we act towards others, that we behave towards others, the things we do and the thoughts we actually think. So that for me is what it's about. So yes, I have no doubt that that she was violated on some level by the Mormon Church, and especially that they were so strongly pretty much promoting her, from what we're hearing as well, and endorsing her work. No doubt that's part of the reason she was doing so well as well, because she had the Mormon Church behind it. They were, and who knows what was happening. I mean, there's lots of things where they were NGOs, and even George Soros was involved in the NGOs they were setting up. You know,
oh God.
So and Tim Ballard is involved.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I want to get, because actually after this, I want to look at the Lori Vallow case, because there's so many correlations.
Yeah.
And Charmaine, that's what we're saying. Like, how come she diagnosed all the men as sex addicts and none of the women? Like, that's weird. As somebody looking at of course women are also, and most of these men weren't even sex addicts. Like, most of these men were, they were just normal, healthy men. But any type of sex, like we looked at, I think it was last week, that part of the addiction is being sexually attracted to your spouse. Like, what? And I will say, I'll be very vulnerable right now, you guys. I was abused as a child. And when I was 15 years old, my uterus fell out, which is a sign of horrible, horrible molestation. I've never once, nor would I ever touch, nor would I ever want to put that pain onto somebody else, right? But I was not trained or groomed under MK Ultra or whatever to go out and perpetrate that onto other people. Like, that was not, so, and I'm just going to be very clear. I was telling Shanti, like, I shower a little too much. My boyfriend's very lucky. I shave my legs every day. I take like 3 or 4 showers a day, so I'm the opposite spectrum of, actually, I laugh about it, but sometimes my boyfriend's like, you don't have to be this clean, so, and we're looking again, her house was like, what, 10,000 square feet? She had 10 showers, 10 bathrooms.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me, Shanti, because I was thinking about this in the shower, actually in the shower this morning, I was thinking about this. Like, I'm very much a minimalist. I'll admit it. I'm a minimalist. I only, I want just as much space as I need. I don't have a lot of clothes. I get overwhelmed with too much stuff. What is a single woman doing in a house that has 10 bathrooms, unless she's trying to bring more people into this house that maybe are there against their will? Children, maybe. I don't know. It's just very strange to me. This house had escape rooms. Like, she built this house. This was her house. So
it's apparently like a $5 million house. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're not talking a cheap house here.
No.
And I mean, anyone who's seen any of those video clips, I mean, this was a beautiful house. That area, and I mean, where she lived, wow. I mean, that's freaking gorgeous. Like, that whole area is freaking gorgeous.
Yeah. Angela brought up a really good point here. She said, I came in late, but I will go back and watch later. You might be the only channel talking about the MK Ultra SRA abuse. I want the connections revealed. And that's a really good point, Angela. Like, what really was connections? We call it a cult. Like, on the surface level, it does look, Mickey, there are like 10 shower heads in one shower. Wouldn't that be fun to take a shower? I've never been in a shower with that many shower heads. I'd be in there all day. I'd just be standing there all day. But
yeah, right.
What is connections really? Is it a cover for another more unsavory business? I don't know. So I think even more is probably going to come out. Again,
exactly. They've already discovered. I was watching a podcast yesterday, and I can't remember now exactly. And I did write it down. And I couldn't find the paper now that I wrote it down on. But where they were talking about the non-profits, and yet they were all paid. And somewhere along the line, George Soros is involved and an investor as well. Now, hello. Hello. George Soros, right? Okay, so
Big red
anytime
flag.
involved, yeah, and Tim Ballard is involved somewhere along the line there as well. I mean, it's crazy, and I think a lot more is still going to come out. And that one woman, what is her name? Tanya? Is it
Pam?
Tanya?
Is it Pam?
Pam
the other,
as well.
She
was involved. Yes.
Well, it seems like, so let's I want to get into, because Kevin seems, from what I hear in the audio from his first interview is not that exciting. He's just like shocked and he's very confused. But the second interview, dude spills the tea, y'all. And he's like, and if you want to get Pam, here's this. And he talks about, so basically, and there's this, spirituality is both positive and negative. So just because somebody's having a spiritual experience doesn't mean it's of the light, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's of the dark. So what the book? Yeah. Oh yeah.
I agree, Angela.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right,
please go and watch my interviews with Asia Rain. Please watch them.
Shanti's been trying to call that out for a long time. This is very, very much a part of it. Well, so Kevin, in that second interview, and I literally, like, when I heard, first of all, I was like, give me the tea, when he talked about like the manipulation of Jodi and the trying to sign the business over. This is all stuff that maybe we expected, right? We had already seen her journal entries, Ruby's journal entries, and he's talking about these pen and papers or whatever, which is apparently scripture. They're writing scripture now.
Pen papers, called the pen papers. And that was really crafted by Ruby, but contained both their visions. So they'd be sitting, Pam, Ruby, and Jodi would be sitting in these
seance. Like seance it out.
And this was the time, by the way, and as we all know, she pretty much told her husband, Ruby told her husband, that he was not allowed to, they were not sleeping in the same bed anymore. He was not even allowed upstairs in the room, because Jodi then came to live. She first had a meltdown and then was living with.
Okay, this is where the paranormal gets in. So let's back up with that a little bit. So I hope we get it right. So she was staying at a mutual friend's house because she was having a meltdown.
She had a meltdown. So therefore they went to live. Yes, hang on, before that. So what happens, she goes to the Hannahs, who are apparently mutual friends, for 6 weeks, and she stays there because she's had some type of a meltdown. But then apparently, from what we're hearing, gets kicked out because she's now getting sexually suggestive with her husband, right?
But so the Hannahs kidnapped her.
Yes, but so whatever. Then after that, Ruby then decides that Jodi should come and live with them. And this is what Kevin Franke says. The minute she then came into their house, things started happening, like things flying across the room, footsteps up and down the walls. I mean, crap like this. But now, so she lives upstairs, right, in her own room. And now what happens, because all this paranormal activity starts happening, Ruby decides, okay, she now is not going to be sleeping with Kevin in the bed anymore. She's now going to sleep with Jodi in the bed. So she moves. To make sure she's okay. So she moves into the bedroom with Jodi. And then Jodi and Ruby and Pam then would have these behind closed doors, the pen papers, and that's what we're talking about here. And it wasn't the journaling, where they had these visions and all the stuff that God wanted them to do. And part of that was visions about her walking on water and stuff like that, right? I mean, you can talk about the paranormal stuff, but that's just what it was. But in the meantime, so the husband of Ruby, which is Kevin Franke, then gets completely ousted. And this is how it works. I mean, this is this cult behavior, this isolation. He gets completely ousted from his own wife's bed, from her love, her acceptance. And he's not even allowed to go upstairs in his own house. He has to stay downstairs and live in a little corner. And eventually they apparently go somewhere and then come back. And before he's even announced, Ruby then tells him he has to move out.
Yeah.
And that's where that shit started.
Well, I actually talked to Mr. Fox, our friend Mr. Fox, offline about this because I wanted his perspective on this with the paranormal stuff, because Kevin Franke is sitting there with the detectives. He's like, y'all, plates were flying across. He's like, I'm an engineer. I can't explain what was going on. So Mr. Fox had two lines of thought with this. When we're looking with if the children were being abused at this time, children who are preteen, especially girls, are more than likely to create what's called a poltergeist. So what is a poltergeist? Poltergeists fascinate me. It's when you have so much pent up energy and aggression that the energy actually forms its own being and it gets really active. So it's kind of like telekinesis, but not telekinesis, because it becomes its own entity. So that's one option of what was going on, is that the children were already being so brutally abused that they collectively had created an entity that was creating the plates flying, the stairs, the walking, the steps. Another, and this is probably more like it, I believe now that Jodi is a souled being. She has a soul who is going in the negative path. And when they intentionally terrorize other people for their energy, what does it create? It creates loosh.
Yeah, exactly.
So their house, with all those children being terrorized, with Kevin Franke being terrorized to an extent, would have been like a beacon in the night for the demons to come feed.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that I think Jodi was already so abused herself, she already was a walking portal for this stuff.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, that this kind of paranormal activity was already happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Long before.
If she was being MK Ultra and SRA, she was seeing demons her whole life.
Exactly.
But she played it up. She played it up for Ruby, because Ruby has this need. In my opinion, this was the hook for Ruby, because Ruby already on 8 Passengers was talking about going to the temple, getting baptized, following the Book of Mormon, and so she already wants to be the queen bee when it comes to God, right? And so if Jodi can make Ruby feel, this is part of that love bombing, right? If she can make Ruby feel like Ruby is somehow responsible for Jodi's spiritual healing, then she's got her.
Yeah.
She's got her.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Karen. Exactly. She said this is more common than most people realize. It absolutely. I mean,
totally is.
and I have
think
experienced spiritual warfare.
Brilliant, because it's such. We see, and this is exactly what that forensic psychologist was doing, and that's what I actually really enjoyed about listening to him, because as he says, Kevin Franke, without even realizing it, has talked us through the whole isolation, indoctrination of all of this, and how she literally became the husband then.
Yes.
Jodi became the husband, and he was completely isolated. And then she told him he had to go to the men's groups, because they were doing men's groups. And he had to paraphrase a lot of this connections, classroom stuff. And all he tried to do was get her favor. And she was giving all the other men compliments in their favor, except him. He was manipulated. Exactly. Why? Because he was standing in the way of Jodi getting everything she wanted: the 8 passengers, the wife, the children, everything. Thank God. And as we know, just before this happened, their arrest, she was busy buying land in Arizona, right?
Yeah, to build a compound.
To get the kids right. Can you imagine if they had taken those kids there?
They wouldn't have survived. There's no way those kids would have survived. It's a miracle. And everybody, I saw this, actually, I was listening to Emily Baker, an attorney, go through this as well. And I will say she made up some really good points. Like, she talked about how when she worked for the DA, she could never handle child abuse cases because she can't be professional when she's looking at, and what a really good job. I mean, Ivins, Utah, from what I understand, is a very small town. People from Utah y'all can let us know. So these cops, she kept laughing about what a bad day this was for these cops. They're not used to this kind of stuff, right? So the cops handled this situation with such grace, in such
they were very good.
And
they were kind, actually.
They were kind. And Emily was saying that she would have lost her cool. You've gone from seeing, and this is the one thing too, when you see the reaction, because these cops, these EMT workers, their body cams, their cameras they have on their vests, I think they probably forget they're there because they're on them all the time. And to see their reaction, to see them get choked up and emotional, talk about the smell coming off of the wounds, and to know this isn't vague. Like this, there's no like vagueness to this. Were they abused? Weren't they abused? They absolutely were, right? And I did learn, I learned something. I think this is true in all 50 states. So in the United States, typically cops, in order to come into your house, have to have a search warrant.
Not there. Unless as a child.
Unless there is extenuating circumstances that prove somebody's life is in danger. And because Russell, in the ambulance, they said, are there other children in the house? And he said, yes, I have 2 sisters. The one we now know is with Ruby to a dental appointment. And Russell said, I haven't seen my sister in a month. Because he said that, because he has not seen his sister in a month, that scared the police enough to think there could be a body. That's why they were able to, because of Russell, and that ring camera of the guy who called the 911. When you go back and watch it now through the camera and you see his wife, I got so emotional when the husband's on the phone, that famous 911 call, and the little boy Russell's sitting there and she's giving him food, and the wife, and this is an elderly couple, like probably retirement. She squats down so she's eye level, which we know when adults squat eye level with the kid, that's a subconscious body signal to make the kid feel comfortable. We just do it naturally to get on their eye level. She squats down and she starts rubbing his arms, and she says, and you hear it in the camera, you don't hear it in the phone call, she says, I'm gonna get emotional. She goes, you're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. You did such a good thing. And you know that kid has not heard that from an adult.
Never. All he's believed is that, all he's ever heard is that he's evil. He's got demons, and they need to get this out. And how, because he stole water, how evil he is. I mean, Ruby Frankie's, I think we should do a show just on what came out of her journals. And a lot of it has been redacted.
Yeah.
And they've taken that out because obviously it's too sensitive for a lot of it. I mean, my gosh, the stuff we've seen there. And, that for me was so clear that this kind of crap was going on long before Jodi even came along. And someone made it very interesting. In fact, the same this forensic psychiatrist said, Jodi didn't do it to Ruby. She gave Ruby permission. and not even consciously. It was just like, okay, well, it's okay. And again, I think Ruby was totally indoctrinated by the church when she was, maybe not in the same way that Jodi was, but it's my opinion that she was also had her experiences with the church and all of those terrible things, and had a lot of this nonsense indoctrination hammered into her day after day, year after year. And no doubt she too probably had exorcisms and demons taken out of her as a child, or similar stuff. And the problem is they've never healed from that. So when a wound is not healed, it's going to be infected, and and the sins of the father bestowed upon the child. So when that wound is not healed, it carries over. We know this. No one here on this channel needs to be informed of that. But I just find it very interesting because that forensic psychologist made a very interesting observation. He spoke about Jodi, and of course I agree with this because I'm all about energy and projection and all of that kind of stuff. So he spoke about she had her inner satanic issues that became violent impulses, right? So her own inner satanic impulses, she was trying to control it. And that's why forming a cult normalized that for her. So she can't contain it. So she deals it against the kids. So she cannot contain. And that's why, no doubt, these poltergeists, these crazy entities that were haunting her. She spoke about Charles, her lion. She was riding her lion in heaven, you know. So she was already delusional about a lot of things, you know, and then sort of taking that out. And then basically the cult that she was forming here, iced over with very clever, slick words, because the way she would, you know, in her connection classroom, the things she would talk about is very good ways of being, to be humble, to be honest, right? To deal with things. Yeah, exactly. It's a very good icing on the cake. But when you cut that cake, it's just one big pile of smelly poop.
Yeah.
So, and I liked what Laura's wife, she said. She says, well, to talk in layman's terms, the cult is normalizing her darkness. And I think that says it all in terms of what this was about. She is so haunted by her own inner demons that she's never, ever gotten healing for. And she's said that before, right? And yeah, we know. And that's why, you know, one of the big things for me is this is a typical case of how dangerous organized religion is, and how dangerous it is, because she talks about those Bible verses. Gosh, I wrote that down.
Oh my God, and her and Ruby, not once in any of those gel phone calls did they ask how the children were.
That's what I was going to say. Not once. Oh my God, how the children, are they okay? I cannot see them. Please, whatever you do, bring me my kids, you know. And he also spoke about how, you know, at the end there, when he was saying about the cases, and, you know, like the courts would look at how repentant you are and all this stuff, how well organized Ruby had got herself
manipulation to a T. Yeah. And I listen, if my nephew and nieces were in this situation, which thank God they'll never be, because my sister would never do that, you best believe my ass would be in that hospital, would be going to the court, trying to get custody. I would be so concerned. And this woman can't even ask, when she's on the phone with her husband, those phone calls, not once does she say, not once does she cry about her children. Not once does she say, how can I make this right? I'm so sorry. I love them so much. I cannot believe this happened. Not once. All she talks about is how I'm paraphrasing, how she's a martyr, and how all these great men of God have always been misunderstood like her, and that what adults don't understand is that children can be evil too. No, Ruby, they're children. Stealing, first of all, if a child is in my house, I don't care whose child it is. I don't care if it's your grandchild, Shanti, or any of our friends in the chat's child. If they're hurt, thirsty, or hungry, you best believe they're welcome to anything in my house besides the alcohol. You best got some of that. You best believe that they are, my nephew and nieces know that when they come to my house, they can eat whatever snacks they want, they can get whatever drinks they want. So for your child to steal water, not even Coca-Cola or juice, but water, because he's that thirsty, and to say he's evil for stealing it, this is it makes me so mad. This is a bodily function that all humans need to hydrate. The baseline job for you as a parent, the baseline is making sure your kid has food and water and a roof over their head.
Absolutely.
Like I can't, those calls. And then the fact that she goes on about how she will, like, almost like she's going to persevere, and, you know, she's going to get through this. And I'm like, ma'am, sit your ass down in that jail cell for 30 years. Let's see you come out in your 70s. Make sure your children are well into their adulthood before your ass is free to contact them again. Sorry.
Exactly. this, this whole scriptural manipulation, because then she speaks to someone on the phone. I'm not sure who, it's a man. So where it wasn't a lawyer, maybe it's a friend of sorts.
It might have been her husband, because she was speaking to him a lot on the phone.
No, this is Jodi. Jodi doesn't have a...
Jodi. Oh, yeah, no. Jodi will
children will rise up against their parents. I mean, how? And she says, well, this is what's happened with her. I mean, hey, when we're looking at what's happening in society nowadays, right? When we're looking at what's happening
that
in
metaphor,
society,
right? This is a metaphor.
That metaphor, absolutely. Yeah. Now she's taking that, and she has absolutely said, no, well, this is what's happened. And that's why she's in the prison or jail. She's still in jail. They're not in prison yet. And this is what's happening to her, taking that scripture and twisting it and turning herself into the victim. Neither one of these women in there have even remotely, from what I've been observing, neither one of them, none of those women have even started taking accountability for their actions. And as long as this forensic psychologist is also saying the same thing. He doesn't believe people can change. They can change their beliefs, but the essence of them might not. I don't know. I do disagree with that on some level, because I've seen people, the minute you actually show them the truth about who they are, not just here, but in their full being, everything changes. The essence of them remains the same, but they can really understand the error of their ways. This I do believe. And that's why I believe psychology in many ways is just working with one aspect, but when you work deeper, you get a much different understanding of the entire being. But that for me is...
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna try to find, I'm trying to find it right now. If you see me guys looking, I'm trying to find that. I was gonna send you. Do you have the link for our friends who have not seen that forensic psychologist? Where is it? I'm on their page right now.
Hang on, let me find it here. I can find it here. Let me see. Here we go. Do you want me to copy it?
To put the link in the chat, just so our friends who haven't seen, they have little clips too. Like here's one. The children will rise up against there, but they have the full where it's like a 2-hour podcast where he literally goes through a lot of the paranormal stuff, a lot of the the not showering. So I don't know. Yeah, I know I sent it to you, but I can't see it now.
Yeah, so. There it is. I've just posted it. I think that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it's like longer than a 2-hour podcast. But man, this guy, Dr. John, they call him, and his wife, Lauren, I think her name is, they're a couple. Yeah. And he's a forensic psychologist, and he obviously goes through this, and he speaks about it at length. And of course, I mean, he really does resonate with a lot of things, or I resonate with a lot of things that he's speaking about there. But I mean, it's completely, it's actually really sad.
Yeah, I've listened to that podcast twice now because of everything that he picks out in it. And I just, this again goes back, and I know we had a lot of people in the chat talking about Lori Vallow. Are you familiar with the Lori Vallow case, Shanti?
I'm actually not. I've seen a lot of it, and I've actually made a point of wanting to go and check it out.
I think we should maybe talk about that next, because there's a lot of correlations. Right. Lori Vallow, Ruby Frankie, Tim Ballard, they're all influenced by this book called Visions of Glory. And this is one thing I wanted to say too. I talk a lot about how when you're looking for a spiritual healer or a spiritual teacher, it's really important to see where that person has studied, who they've studied with, who they're accountable to. Like Shanti has teachers, I have teachers. We're accountable, right? Because a lot of times the ego is a very, very finicky thing. And a lot of times people confuse their imagination for their intuition.
Yeah.
And it is up to you as the person, as the sovereign person, to have discernment. So if somebody's trying to give you a vision, like I'm not really one to take, unless it's a friend of mine that I trust a lot, I'll listen to them. But usually I think visions are more for the individual person, right? It shouldn't be used as a control mechanism. And this is what the problem I have with religion too, is that Religions notoriously use God as a weapon. They weaponize God. They weaponize God. Only the priest can speak to God. Only this person can. Only Jodi knows the real truth with a capital T. She's the arbiter of truth. No, you know, in the positive polarity, everyone is equal, and we're all equal in the eyes of God. And so, all these red flags, you guys, don't ever follow. And there's a lot of charlatans. There's a lot of charlatans in the truther community who claim to be spiritual, and they're doing the same shit Jodi Hildebrandt's doing on YouTube.
Rest assured about that. Rest assured about that. Rest assured.
Just take your power back. Don't we should make a t-shirt. Don't be a Ruby. Don't be a Ruby.
Don't be a Ruby.
Don't be.
That makes sense. Don't be a Ruby.
Don't write a lion named Charles in heaven.
Exactly. Leave Charles the lion out of it. Please leave our lions out of it.
When that lion comment came up, I was like, oh, now we got a lion? This shit just got even better. Now we've gotten I've heard of imaginary friends, but now we got an imaginary lion. She's riding in heaven. She's having conversations with heavenly
and walking on water. And part of this her whole vision was when she came across Jesus, and Jesus was now having a counseling session with her about walking on water. So then they had the pen papers or whatever it is. And that's why they hadn't gotten hold of the pen papers yet.
I don't think so. They found it at all yet. I mean, it's just
maybe
be
she
careful,
just
guys.
Incinerated it.
Because fourth density negative beings or demons, if that's what you want to call them, they can impersonate the light. They can make you believe that you are riding a lion named Charles in heaven, and then you're the freaking empress of the world, and you're some like Star Wars superstar that came down to planet Earth to battle with your lightsabers, and only you can save planet. The demons can make you believe that to bring you onto a negative path, a service to self path. So just be real careful with that. You know,
I mean, I fully agree. And you know what we have to realize, and you know, when we're dealing with God would never ever ask you to hurt or harm anything or anyone. God would never ask you to kill anything or anyone. Every single little creature on this earth belongs to God, whether it's directly or indirectly. So God would never ever ask you to hurt or harm anyone. Obviously, if you are defending yourself, if there's robbers or murderers coming at you and you're there to defend yourself or your kids, that's a different story. If you're required to do a mercy killing, that's a different story.
The books of the Bible talk about mercy killing. In the Book of the Nazarene Way, Yeshua says that if you see somebody in pain, an animal or human, you need to make sure that they go in peace.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. And I will say, but like, guys, like, children are never going to be attacking, you know, like, I just, again, I want to come back. I just want to applaud the man and his wife that called 911, and the fact that the wife who here his mother and his mother's friend were denying them food, but a complete stranger went into her kitchen and brought food out to that child, no questions asked, and sat him on a chair. That kid probably hadn't sat on a chair in months.
And knew exactly how to deal with this little one. And, you know, when you see him all strapped up, basically the police have got him, but they obviously take his face out of the picture and his little body, oh my God, he's 12 years old and he's this little tiny little chest. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And that's how we know truth, Chantal. Absolutely, Karen. I so agree. God will not ask you to hurt or harm anything ever. And if you are working in that way, you will know that you are on God's path. And it's very interesting because I also just want to say this because Dr. John closed off with this quote from the Bhagavad Gita. Now, again, the Bhagavad Gita is the Hindu Book of Wisdom or Bible, if you want to equate
it. It's my
it.
favorite. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is the most. Yeah. It is, and remember, guys, this was about 500 or 5,000 years before Christianity came along. Yeah. Before Christianity came along. So, and I want to just point out to you guys as well, if you, and don't be scared to do this, you know, this is how we get to understand things. This is how we open our minds. Go and research the Buddhism and the Hinduism. Go and research it, because then you're going to see, like, for example, the 10 Commandments that we see in the Bible are coming from ancient yogic scriptures and yogic
the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They're also in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were there long before Christianity was. So we know that Christianity has been infiltrated. We know that the church is the infiltrator of human beings. They've used the church to infiltrate, corrupt. Again, when you listen to Caleb, who has spent decades in the arcane. I mean, Caleb could never, he's forever saying, I'm astounded that you guys don't know this. And what he means by that is it's not like he's trying to be condescending or anything. What he's talking about is that everyone in the arcane knows this stuff. Yeah. But he then understands, like when he sort of came into the light, to see how duped the average Christian person was, how much information they don't have, how much knowledge they don't have, how much the church has kept, how many missing books of the Bible there were, how they've twisted and turned things. That's how we've become enslaved to the system. And he calls it, yes, I know there is something called the slave Bible. I know that. But he also calls the normal Bible the slave Bible, because why? So much has been taken out of it. Yeah. And anything like that. And oftentimes, not just are they twisting and turning words, what they're doing is they take it, and rest assured, lots of the Eastern teachings have been corrupted too. Make no mistake. There are lots of yogic cults as well. You've got to be very careful, in everything that you do. So you've got to really sit with yourself, be discerning, and understand what true wisdom really is. And this is what he spoke. This is, and he quoted this from the Bhagavad Gita, which, as I said, was written 5,000 years before Christianity. And it's the Hindu Bible, if you want to call it a Bible. Yeah. Man is made by his belief. As he believes, so he is. Now, guys, isn't that ultimate wisdom?
Yes.
I promise you. And that's the teachings. If you're reading the true teachings of Christ, he tells you very similar stuff to that. And I'm going to quote that again. Man is made by his belief. As he believes, so he is. It's that simple.
I really, we put, for those who missed it, Shanti put a link to that that episode in the chat. So you guys should absolutely go. He's fantastic. His wife
I'm going to do it again. I've posted it 2 or 3 times. I'm going to paste it again. Yeah, the link for it was out of all the episodes of this I've watched, it's the best one that I've seen.
I would say, I don't want to speak for you, Shanti, but listen, if anybody knows them, I would love to talk with him and his wife about this.
Yeah.
Case. I would love to talk to them.
Absolutely. Fantastic couple. I love that. Yeah. I love that. And it's called the True Hidden Crime or something is the name of the channel.
It's a pretty big channel. I think she used to be like an actual news anchor, like a journalist. I think that's how she met him. Yes. Now they do their YouTube channel. And they've done a lot. If we go into Lori Vallow, I'm going to be referencing them a lot too, because they've done a lot on Lori Vallow as well.
Yeah. And Tim Ballard. We've got to be talking about Tim Ballard as well. I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh my God. I still need to order. I still want to read this Visions of Glory book, y'all. Maybe we should call it Imaginations of Glory. Like, this is the thing again when you're looking at these spiritual groups, is it their imagination or is it intuition? My intuition has never been as grandiose as some of these people's visions, right? And you also look at the us versus them. That's the one thing that Christianity does that I can't stand. It's got this very narcissistic viewpoint that only we have the true religion and therefore we are better than everyone else. That's an us versus them, you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not, in God's eyes, we're all the same. In God's eyes, what's it Ram Dass said? Treat everyone like they're God dressed in drag. You know,
exactly.
like everything is a flavor of God. So we are.
Can you see how the New World Order has taken that concept and absolutely inverted it?
Yeah.
Because now part of the AC movement, the Antichrist movement, one religion, one government, one sex, one everything. And what they've done is they've taken that concept and they've turned it and manipulated it into the way.
They've inverted it. We all are one. We are one collective consciousness. Exactly. But that doesn't mean we have to be like a Baphomet. So that's the inversion, right? Because the darkness can't create anything, only the light can create. So they take from the light and they invert it. Yeah.
They'll emulate. They emulate it completely. Yeah.
And so Angela just said one red flag with the Mormon church and most religions is they play into the ego and say they are the chosen pride. Yeah, exactly, Angela. And that's the one. I think you're right. It's a lot of different religions. And I know, like, you know, growing up when in my church, they would always say, you know, we need to witness to people. People need to come to our faith. And it's like, you know, I've shared this before. I had a friend growing up who was Muslim, and my mother would have kicked my ass if I had gone to my friend's family's house and started to preach Christianity. That would have been seen as disrespectful. Like if you're at their house, you treat them with respect, right?
So Rome do as Romans do.
Exactly. Treat them with. I would go celebrate Ramadan with them all the time as a kid when they would finish and they would have the feast. We would always.
Do you know? Speaking about Ramadan, though, do you know that? I mean, and I know this from. I have lots of friends that live in Dubai and the UAE, etc. Food sales go up by 75%.
It's because they only fast from when the sun's up. So they're feasting at night.
And they're munch away the whole night.
You know, there's a really funny reality show. I think it's called Family Karma. It's these like first generation Hindus living in America. And there was this one really funny scene where two of the moms are talking and they're trying to fast, you know, for not like Ramadan, but a day of fasting. And the one Hindu mom's like, you know, I need energy to pray. Like she's manipulating why she's not going to fast because she needs energy to pray, you know. But I can see that, like, especially if you're like, I have gone all day without eating, I'm gonna pig out when the sun goes down.
75% food sales.
I love it.
In the middle of the night,
I love it. They are like, you know what? I think all these women think they're gonna lose. How many Muslim women are like, I'm gonna lose weight during Ramadan? This is gonna be amazing. Meanwhile, they're eating all the cookies at night.
Munching away on dates, and especially dates, because dates are supposed, and of course I love dates, so I'm a great advocate for dates. You're supposed to like their dates and things, because they're so nutritious, right? And you're supposed to have like a few dates and things after sunset just to keep yourself like sustained, right?
You're just like eating them like bonbons. Just Joe, speaking of dates, do you want to hear it? We can end on a funny story. I don't think this has to do with a child, but maybe a little, you know, siblings, like my sister growing up, we would like kind of do things to each other. Well, the best is when you're an aunt and you don't have kids. So my nephew, my oldest nephew, when he would come visit me before he was potty trained, when he would come hang out with, I had a train that would go behind my old place. So my nephew he loved trains, so he'd want to come watch the train. Well, I would time it right because at Aunt Brice's house, you can have whatever you want at Aunt Brice's house. I'm the cool aunt. My nephew loved raisins. So I would always time it for like an hour before my sister would pick him up, where I'd give him all these raisins. And then I get a phone call because Charlie would have had a blowout in his diaper. And I was like, ha, 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 hang the phone up because I'm still your sister. I'm still your, I would like weaponize my nephew's diaper time by giving him raisins at a particular time before my sister would come pick him up.
It's like being the cool aunt. I know I was that for my nieces and nephews as well. And all the rebel, all the naughty ones, all the very naughty ones were like my besties in the family, right?
Oh, I love it.
And of course, being a grandma is the best because we were talking about Easter now, chocolate time. Oh boy, I've just like sent her mama a whole lot of chocolate money for Easter.
I love it.
My granddaughter gets, if she wants, Granny gives. And it's so cool because it's like, it's like that's my job is to spoil her, right?
Yeah. I was telling you, my mom does that with her grandchildren, and I do it as their aunt. I'm like, I am not. My sis, it's so funny because I am the black sheep. I am the rebel compared to my sister. I've gotten all the bodies.
You're the sparkly one. We all the sparkly sheep, man.
I'm the sparkly sheep. Well, I got a phone call, a FaceTime from like my older niece and nephew the other day because they're like 11 and almost 10, right? So they called me because my sister had told them a story about how I had gotten my belly button pierced at 18. And it like fell out in the shower because my body rejected it. So they thought that was so cool. And I still have a scar on my belly button. So they're like, we want to see your scar. So yeah, be the spicy sheep. You'll be the cool aunt. You'll be the cool
exactly. Oh, wow. Okay, guys and girls, I want to say thank you so much. And is Jessica Weezer still in the chat? Jessica, if you're here, just show me a thumbs up because I have some good news for you, which I was going to share for Caleb's show tomorrow night. But since you're here, and by the way, our Patreons, we're doing an awesome gathering with Caleb and Kerry Saint from Australia on Saturday, Easter gathering on Zoom. For the Patreons. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going down. We're going to be talking just about a lot of people dealing with SRA grief, adoptee grief. Kerry Saint is the advocate for forced adoptions in Australia, and Caleb is going to be talking about how the Native Americans actually deal with grief as well, which is super fascinating. So yeah, just a lovely time of gathering and getting together. So check out the social media, check out my Facebook page, check out the community on both Aquarius Rising as well as Solutions. And I don't know if Jessica's in here. I know we're all a rebel at heart, Charmaine. Don't you worry. We're just so rebellious. Yeah, it's awesome.
I love that. We're the sparkly sheets.
Sparkly.
One.
I said to my family, I'm not the black sheep. You all the dusty ones. I'm the sparkly one, baby.
I came out with glitter on.
Sparkle and shine. Anyway, okay. Jessica is not in here. I'll talk tomorrow. And then I'll let her know her good news as well. Okay. Guys and girls, I say thank you so much. And Lisa D, as always, you are a very bright, shining, sparkly star as well. You're a great supporter to our channel. And I just want to give you a public shout out for being so freaking fabulous. Thank you so much.
We have the best friends on YouTube, don't we, Shanti? Like we literally
do. That's so cool. That's so cool. It's so cool. And I look forward to seeing all of you again. We got Caleb tomorrow evening again. Well, tomorrow morning for you, evening for me. So look forward to seeing you all then. And yeah, really, you guys are awesome. I love you in the chats, and it's often we'll see the same ones. And I know there are many of you who actually don't show your faces in the chats as well. I'll get emails saying, I don't talk much in chats, but I love it. Don't stop it. Okay, I just love it. Okay, guys, take care of yourselves.
Bye, guys.
God bless you. And again, to our Patreons, thank you. You rock.